Welcome to Purposely Peaceful. I'm your host, Jessica Rivera, a licensed marriage and family therapist and a quantum hypnosis practitioner. This podcast is where real life meets inner peace. You'll get honest conversations, practical tools, and soulful guidance to help you live with more clarity, calm, and purpose. Let's dive in. Today, we're talking about something that can seriously derail our peace and disrupt our lives: drama. The kind that pulls us out of our center, grabs our attention, and keeps us distracted. Let's talk about what drama really is, why we get caught up in it, and how we can create more space for peace. First things first, drama is a distraction. It pulls our focus away from what truly matters, and in a world that thrives on noise and chaos, we've become so used to it that it's hard to even recognize. So what are some of the distractions in our lives? Busyness. Too much going on at all times. We often wear busyness as a badge of honor, but it's a double-edged sword. It makes us feel productive, but it drains our energy, leaves us with less for what we truly want. Problems at work. When work stress takes over, it spills into every other aspect of our life, keeping us in a constant state of urgency. Conflict and gossip. It can be very consuming, especially when we feel misunderstood or unsupported, or we can't get over what so-and-so did. Caring too much, being overly empathetic and taking on other people's suffering. Empathy is beautiful, but it can also be overwhelming when we take on more than we can handle. Life's already tough enough, and at some point, we need to start setting boundaries. We need to decide that we don't have to take on more than we should. Drama feeds the ego, and the ego is always hungry for more. So what does the ego crave? Drama. It can show up in many forms, whether it's trying to one-up someone, feeling attacked, gossiping, or seeking out situations that stir tension. Inadvertently, we feed this craving over time. Sometimes it's as simple as watching movies or TV shows that lower our vibe, filled with fear or horror. Personally, I'm not into these kinds of movies or shows. Why? Because they trigger your nervous system. If your heart is racing during a movie, that's your adrenaline and your cortisol levels being activated. I don't consider that healthy. So why would I choose to dysregulate my nervous system? It's just not for me. If I do watch something that might trigger me, I literally cover my eyes or I look away, and it seems kind of ridiculous. I know some of you might think, no, I'm good. There's no way I'm not watching my favorite TV show. I felt like that once too. But I'm sharing this to show you that this can fuel the drama, the chaos, and get our nervous system all fired up. You simply need to decide where you want to create the change. You don't have to stop watching TV. I still watch something here and there a couple times per week. But it's not just our TVs or phones that are creating chaos. Other times, drama shows up in the people around us. Everybody has something going on, whether it's an issue at work, a looming divorce, co-parenting drama, a health issue, financial stress, you name it. But some people make their problem the focal point of their lives. This is drama. There's a difference between processing your emotions and dwelling on it over and over. As a therapist, I often hear about the friend who emotionally dumps on you, asks how you're doing, gives you a minute to talk, and then makes it all about themselves again. That's creating drama. Your ego might like it, but for most people, the true self, that loving part of you, doesn't like how it feels to be on the receiving end of a drama-fueled person. And so this brings me to social media. Here's an unpopular opinion. TikToks, Instagram Reels, and similar content, a lot of it is drama, literal drama. Crime stories, sad stories, political rants, car accidents, the news, which is usually negative. We've created a negative feedback loop. We're constantly being fed more and more drama, and as we engage, it only grows. We might tell ourselves, I'm learning a lot from TikTok, but how often do we actually apply what we're hearing? Not often. So that makes it noise. Noise that steals our peace. Something to think about is to start noticing when you mindlessly scroll. Are you consuming content that adds value to your life, or is it just distracting you further? Distraction is only useful sometimes, not all the time. And so a big part of this work is starting to take accountability for how you're using that time scrolling. And I don't know about you, but I don't remember 99% of all the things that I see on social media. It all blends together at some point and becomes noise. When we're constantly exposed to noise, it crowds our mental space, making it harder to focus on what truly matters. How much of what you see and hear contributes to your life in a meaningful way? If you can't remember it, how valuable was it really? What would it look like if we focus on only the information that truly supports and enhances our values? It challenges us to take healthy action and helps us grow. And that might not be social media. It might be the quality of the people around you. Which brings me to talk about the people in our lives. People can be part of the drama too. I think they're probably the main part. Think about the people around you. Some may have never-ending problems, some may gossip constantly, some may be on their healing journey doing the inner work. Sometimes I encourage people to think about the type of people around them. How many of the people around you are using their time responsibly, with wisdom, and intentionally to be the best version of themselves? How many of those are genuine and caring friendships? And of those, how many of them are drama-free people? So if you've answered those questions, for most people, the number of people in their lives that are like this is quite small. Some people might be the lucky ones and have several, but that's not always the case, at least not what I've seen. Drama isn't just about the obvious people who bring negativity or toxicity into our lives. Sometimes there's people who are low-key trying to tear us down, dismiss our hopes and dreams, or don't believe in our potential. Or they can't help but be jealous. Jealousy isn't bad, but there's two different kinds. There's oh, I want to have that someday, and that leads them to be inspired to take action. Or there's the kind that want to see you fail. It's just something to think about. The quality of relationships is important because they will either be genuine and supportive for your growth or they won't be. And if they're not, perhaps it's time to consider setting some boundaries with them. But drama just isn't external. It can show up internally within ourselves. Drama doesn't just come from others. It can show up in our minds too. Thoughts that tell us we're not enough. What will they think? Or that life is always just going to be so hard. Those are our own drama. You know that saying, like attracts like? Well, sorry to tell you, but that's true. If you have a taste for drama in life, guess what you'll find? Yep, more drama. It's like a magnet. Without noticing, sometimes you're seeking it out. Have you ever been in the car and drove by an accident? Did you slow down to take a look? If you did, that's your ego feeding itself with drama. Here's what I do. I notice, send love, and immediately turn back to driving because I'm not going to stare at someone else's tragedy. It takes self-restraint, but it's worth it because my goal is inner peace. It's a different choice. Now you have that option if you want it. One thing that I've learned is that my time is incredibly valuable to me. I have a big family, a busy career, things I'm doing all at once. Time is a non-renewable resource, and I've learned to be very selective about how I spend it. I have to set boundaries with my husband, with my children, family, with my clients, and sometimes they have to set them with me. I respect my time and the time of others. I strive to communicate clearly and respectfully without expending emotional energy on other people's feelings. Sometimes we need to say no or remind others that boundaries exist in the first place. It's ongoing because we evolve and change over time. Without boundaries, we'd all end up drained and resentful. Setting boundaries doesn't just protect your time, it protects your peace. It's like clearing out clutter in your home. It opens up space for what truly matters. Boundaries are difficult for a lot of people. We've spent years or even decades operating a certain way, and then we try to make changes. It's uncomfortable, but boundaries are essential for protecting our peace and ensuring that we don't become entangled in unnecessary drama, or that we don't end up feeling resentment because we never spoke up. We can be kind, but we can also be clear with what our limits are. But boundaries are tools to help you show up as your best self without burning out. I remember a situation with family where I had been very clear about my expectations on something that we were doing. I was respectful but firm. When they disregarded what I said, I immediately asked why they did that. It had been easy to disregard my boundaries in the past because I never followed up, but this time I did. They may have thought I was exaggerating or being dramatic, but it was the principle. They crossed my boundary and we were going to talk about it. Since that moment, they haven't crossed my boundaries again. In fact, they check in with me more often asking for my input. Was it worth the discomfort? 1,000% yes. There have been times when boundaries didn't go as planned, but that doesn't mean we give up. It just means we keep trying. We just have to be aware enough to notice when we feel a certain kind of way so that you can start to figure out how you want to proceed. In 2020, like everyone else, I was in shock. The world felt like one of those movies. I was glued to the news. My ego needed to know what was happening. But about a week in or two, I started questioning the approach many news channels were taking. Why keep a death toll count on the screen? That felt so morbid to me and dark. I get that they wanted people to listen, but they use fear. To me, that's the worst way to engage people. It's like an abusive relationship. Fear, peer pressure, and shame to get people to listen. So what did I do? I stopped watching the news. I couldn't control what was happening, and my worrying wouldn't have helped it anyway. Instead, I focused on what I could control: my health, my time with my family, and the fact that I started working from home. My world became centered on the people I saw every day. Why did I do this? Not because I didn't care, but because my mental health and inner peace were more important. So, what does it actually look like to have little to no drama in our lives? Well, first of all, peaceful relationships. We surround ourselves with people who support our growth and are genuinely focused on becoming the best version of themselves. These people encourage you to step into your highest potential and they don't drag you down. We have clear focus. We let go of distractions and make room for what truly matters. We stop chasing shiny distractions and commit to living with intention. For example, my husband and I always check in with each other to make sure that we're on the same page. We want to make sure we're aligned and moving in the same direction. We're set on intentional living. We live with intention and purpose to be purposely peaceful, making choices that align with our values and goals. This means choosing peace over chaos even when it's hard. And when my husband joins me on an episode, we'll share more about how we got into this mindset in the first place. We also focus on the present, this moment, right here, right now. We don't worry about the past or get too far ahead in the future. We focus on today, this week, because it's the only place where we can apply change. Everything else is just fleeting thoughts. And my favorite part about living with little to no drama is more joy. You'll experience more moments of happiness, joy, and gratitude. It's a deeper appreciation for the little things in life. Living a drama-free life doesn't mean we won't face challenges or stress. It means that we stop letting unnecessary distractions and external drama pull us off course. We take responsibility for what we allow into our lives and our minds. I remember a client once asking me, "Is it always like this? Is life always so stressful and full of never-ending drama?" She was in her early 20s trying to figure out adulthood, career, and the curveballs that life presented her with. I told her that as I've gotten older, I've learned that most of the drama isn't even mine. Sure, there are curveballs and unexpected challenges, but when you do the inner work, you can handle things differently. You can learn to appreciate the hard moments. Because of the nature of my work, it may seem that people bring drama to me, but most of the time that isn't the case. I have learned to hold space for that moment. I'm very clear about what is mine and what is theirs. I'm very intentional to not take home what isn't mine. It's a constant practice because I'm human. And even now, I still need to remind myself to clear out the noise and stay grounded because I can't help people if I can't manage myself mentally and emotionally. So, how do I set boundaries with other people's drama? First, I have to recognize if it's my drama or someone else's. Once I'm clear about whose it is, I give myself permission to care for a period of time, and I can offer guidance, but that's all I can do. I've gotten pretty good at giving something 5 to 10 minutes of my time and then saying, "Okay, I'm done," and I move on. How do I convince myself that I'm done? I use those few minutes to acknowledge it, briefly process how I feel about it, and accept that there's nothing more that I can do. For the people with big hearts, it's a tough lesson. Everyone has their own life to figure out. You are the most important person in your life, and you're here to learn, grow, and evolve. Life brings both challenges and joys, and every experience is divinely meant for you. And everything has a lesson somewhere in it. You just have to find it. The hard part is when someone we care about or know is going through a tough time. By nature, the people with big hearts want to help, want to save the person from whatever is happening, sometimes at their own expense. By stepping in too much, we rob others of their lessons. We rob them of their opportunities to grow. Life is about learning from mistakes and from the consequences of our actions. Setting boundaries allows others to live life in a way where they can grow. Some people learn lessons the hard way. We aren't supposed to save people from their lessons. It's just not our place. And I'm not saying never to help people either, because I still do in ways that align with who I am, but never at the expense of my own needs. And here's another point I want to make. If you or if someone you know loves chaos, loves the drama, but also hates it at the same time, do you ever wonder, why can't they stop? Over the years, many of my clients have been ready to stop the drama, but they can't seem to help themselves. Why? Because it's their normal. They've created a baseline that's heightened with constant stress. And if life gets too quiet, guess what? They put themselves or create a situation to start that chaos all over again. Some people fuel the chaos on their own by the choices they make. Others pick relationships that are full of red flags, toxic behavior, and unhealthy patterns because they believe that's what love is. It's a warped kind of relationship. This can be a battle with others or even with yourself. Remember, like attracts like. That means you will attract what is unhealed in you. I'll say that again. You will attract what is unhealed in you. This applies to people and relationships, but also to situations. This is why I firmly believe that purposely embracing peace will support you on your healing journey. It's worth it. Not only is it going to help you, but it can transform the quality of your life. So what's the takeaway from all this? Drama will always try to creep in if we let it. But the good news is we get to decide how much space we let it take. And here's what I want you to focus on. Set boundaries. Boundaries are not just a nice idea, they're essential for protecting your peace. Be clear about what you're willing to take on and don't apologize for it. Your time, energy, and inner peace are valuable. Be selective with your energy. Drama feeds off distraction. Stop mindlessly scrolling through content that doesn't serve you. Don't let the noise around you become the noise inside your head. Choose what you consume, whether it's people, social media, or news, with discernment. Heal what's unhealed. If you find yourself repeatedly drawn to chaos, it's a sign to check in with yourself. Like attracts like. Take the time to do the inner work, heal what needs healing, and you'll see how that shifts what you attract. Live intentionally. Don't let the noise distract you from what matters most. Focus on your goals and intentions. Choose peace over chaos, clarity over confusion, and focus over distraction. Find joy in the simple things, like how you got home 5 minutes early, or you saw a rainbow, or the smiles your kids give you when you play with them. At the end of the day, a drama-free life isn't about avoiding the challenges, it's about how we respond to them. So if you're tired of feeding into the chaos, take control. Step into your personal power and begin to clear away the distractions, set the boundaries, and make space for peace. It's not going to be easy and it's not going to happen overnight, but every small choice you make adds up. It's very likely that the peace you'll find on the other side is worth it. I hope I gave you something to think about. In the next episode, we're diving into the fascinating world of intuition, how to tell the difference between what your heart is telling you and what your brain is trying to rationalize. Trusting your instinct is more powerful than you think, and I'll be sharing a personal story about how my intuition knew that something was wrong. And I just want to say, we are wired perfectly. It's all about learning to listen to the quiet whispers of your soul. Thanks for spending a little time with me today. I hope something here met you right where you are. This podcast is for inspiration only and not a substitute for therapy. Please reach out to a licensed professional if you need support. I'll catch you on the next one.